Categorization is a tool we use to organize our world. By grouping similar things together, we attempt to make our complex world simpler. In art, we sort things by discipline. In music, we catalog by genre. Business is arranged in silos. But as we've learned, a silo mentality can lead to lack of unity in an organization when teams don't share valuable information. Maybe categories don't make it simpler after all. And as Alan Moore states, life isn't divided into genres. We caught up with the members of Paint and Keys and Strings and Keys in Toronto's Liberty Village as they debuted a brand new work under the unified moniker Jessica La with See You Here collaborators Miguel Chavez and Roberto Michels. By design, their project defies categorization and portrays what perhaps we've known all along. Maybe we don't need to separate disciplines, define genres, create silos, because it's all magic and it's all art. And art has no rules. Welcome to Yamaha 440 Sessions.
Specifically about this project, when I was talking to Jessica about it, I needed more adjectives. She told me she wanted to do like a superhero style, sort of bombastic soundtrack. As we were going through it, I was like, okay, I need like levels, like peaks and valleys. I was like, I need like a villain aspect, and I need there to be confrontation. And as she was telling me this, I was like, what do you want? Like, are you writing an origin story, right? And as we keep talking about it, the process basically starts writing its own narrative.
Yeah, we had a narrative before we had the music, right? We're just like, what do we want the shape to be, and what kind of story do we want, and what kind of like. And Miguel definitely influenced us in that aspect because he's like, I need different ranges of emotions. It can't just be like the same beats every single time all the way through. So the hardest part for writing original music is naming it, I've found. So we haven't really talked too much about that.
No, I saved it in my computer as the hero's story.
The hero story, composition, I don't know.
I can start with Miguel. I know I've known him since we were 19.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then Roberto and I.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think we were teaching at the same music school, and that's how we met. And then we just kind of started playing with each other, and then next thing you know, it's been like almost a decade. I think that was mostly you. Yeah, because you're like the in between, because you've known Miguel for so long, and we've been playing together, and you're like, let's do it all together.
You know, it's just when Miguel and I first started performing together, it sounded great, you know, piano and live painting, but why not have that extra element? You know, Roberto and I play so well together. It just made sense, and it just worked for the three of us.
We tend to be a little more free with the creative aspect of it. So I guess we're a little, what would you call it? Just, no one really expects what we're going to do when we get hired or when we get chosen to play or perform for something. So it was kind of natural for Roberto to sort of come on and stretch their creative element.
I like the movie one,
That was our
the
last
night at the
one.
movies.
We put on a show called A Night at the Movies, and we performed a ton of film scores for the two of us, and then that was fantastic. That was actually
It's fun because when you get used to playing weddings, after a while, people start asking for the same songs over and over. So it was nice that we had a lot more creative control to just pick what we wanted to play. And we both really love movies, and that's kind of what inspired the piece that we wrote. We kind of based it off of just like a film score, because we really love film music, right? So we just kind of shaped it as if it was a film score. So, yeah.
I mean, I know that I was calling Miguel quite a bit, actually. I find when he provides a visual component or even just talking about ideas, we like to sort of bounce ideas off of each other. And when we think of certain scenarios, we think of colors and shapes and how that would be performed musically and how that could be shown expressively on a canvas or however way he chooses to paint it.
I usually have an idea of what colors I'm gonna start with and how it's going to sort of lay itself out, but I never really get a chance to practice the way they do, right? So it's more about kind of having a plan of attack as far as like brush strokes or what's going on first, what's going on second, what I'm finishing with. And I usually will get like a sampling of what they're going to play, but it's never in real time until the day of. So the booming sound of their instruments sort of colliding together really helps me be a little more expressive. So even though I have a plan, it's kind of a touch and go depending on how intense the music feels that day.
There's always like a color component to music, right? Like if someone says like, what would blue sound like? And it sounds like a very abstract idea, but like if someone, what would blue, we could start playing like, and it just kind of, there's a sound that we can kind of create from that. So it can be interesting.
In terms of teaching, I use color all the time, and we'll have like a plastic film over top and we'll color it. Like, what does this sound like to you? Or we'll play music and we'll paint to it, just like these little tiny canvases just to see what they feel. But that's more in a group setting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because I teach in a group setting as well, and usually it's like if you just throw out a suggestion of a color, like I feel like this needs to be like a little bit more blue, and you'd be surprised they're not even like consciously aware of the changes they've made, but there is a change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we actually use the word color a lot within music, so it's like we need to give it a little more color, a little more, just like what you were saying. Yeah. A hint.
What is it?
What you just said. When you see colors through music and sound.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Not like full on, but yeah, there's definitely some.
Oh, this will be fun.
I think when I think
play green,
Green.
like a minty, like green with just like a touch of the blue that I'm seeing on the wall there, just like a lighter kind of.
I'm thinking like floating.
yeah, that's
yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
I feel this.
Yeah, and that.
Yeah. Winds blowing. I almost imagine that kind of feel.
Something like that, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
That honestly, by the way, that's how we write.
That's 100% how it goes.
That's literally we were just like, what is da da da? Ooh, I like that da da da. And then an hour goes by and we have a song. It's very rare that me and Jessica aren't on the same page. Extremely rare.
It is.
Throughout the process of writing this, it happened once, and we were both confused because we're like, oh, we're not agreeing right now. What do we do?
So we just completely.
Yeah.
got
So
rid of it.
yeah, we were literally like, we're not doing my idea. We're not doing your idea. We need to come up with a new idea, and that was the end of it. But it's very rare that we're not on the same page. Well, aesthetically, it looks amazing. They're always like, what is that? Like, is that a violin? Or like, I thought you were playing like some low stuff. Like, that doesn't sound like a violin. Or they hear me playing the low stuff, and then they're like, whoa, like, I didn't know like violas had those high notes. And I was like, yeah, like it's a violin-ish with the 5 strings. It allows me range, right? Because most electric instruments, for violin specifically, they only have the 4 strings. So you lose a lot of that low range from the cello section and the viola section that you wouldn't get typically. And because it's the 2 of us, we're trying to cover as much musical space as possible. So by adding that 5th low string, which this instrument provides me with, I have a lot more flexibility and creative license where I can kind of go up, I can go down, I can fill as much space as possible. So that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to actually get this instrument, just because of the ability to be flexible with the music. Originally, before, I was always just playing my regular acoustic violin, and in certain spaces, it's not really built for outdoor playing usually, and a lot of the sound gets muffled in. And we've had a few gigs and performances where we've been outdoors and I have my regular violin, I'm just like, oh, this isn't gonna sound good. Like, there's nothing I can do. There's like 300 people outdoors, like they can't hear me, right? So having this instrument and just having the ability to amplify, it makes my life so much easier. You need to get one because there's so many times, there's so many performances where someone's asking like, oh, like do you play cello? And it's like, I can sound like a cello, right? And a lot of times, like, so like that kind of opens you up to more performance opportunities, right? Because if you're just playing a regular violin, you're limiting yourself a little bit in terms of what kind of performances people are looking for, right? But if people are like, oh, like I would love a cello, and like, great, I can do that. Or I want a violin, I can do that. I can do both, right? What do you want? I can do both, right? So it definitely creates more opportunities, I think.
I loved it. It felt so good. Actually, when I feel a good piano, I'll describe it as like butter. If it feels smooth and if it comes down with the fingers perfectly and comes right back up, everything just feels perfect. And I don't know how else to describe that. It just feels natural to play. And in terms of Yamaha instruments, for me, it's more of a sentimental reason. And I started on Yamaha. Even when I was 3, when I first started doing piano, my first keyboard was Yamaha. And then my first acoustic piano was Yamaha. And then when I went to school, I actually studied euphonium, and it was a Yamaha. So I think it just made sense for me to continue on with that because it's always been something that I've played, but also I just love playing it. It just feels the best for me. I prefer the sound, actually. I feel when I compare it to others that I've played before, there's like a fullness. Like when you play and then the sound comes, it just feels like everything's meant to be. It just feels like a real acoustic piano, which is my preference to play if I could play anything. It feels natural, feels good. Yeah, no complaints. It doesn't feel like I'm playing on a digital piano at all. When I play it, I just try to find something that feels like it resonates within a room. And that's just something where I feel like acoustically, it just makes the most sense. Some sounds can start to sound a little too open, almost hollow, but this feels fuller. Just everything just feels completely filled up. I don't know how else to describe that sound. It just, yeah. I have used some of the electric stuff. I've played with the strings before.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's still in the experimental stages because she'll start like messing around with some of the strings, and we're trying to figure out ways that we can incorporate it better into the pieces that we create and what we perform. But it's definitely something that we're going to continue to explore.
Yeah, I like the idea of layering the sound. Yeah. So having something with like a nice full bottom will also help elevate his sound when we're playing together, which is why we're trying to work on incorporating that. So like the fast strings I started using and the tremolo strings, I kind of like that, right? Yeah. I started to enjoy playing with those. Yeah. So.
It's not possible for what we do.
Yeah,
there's some limitations that I wouldn't be able to get past if I was to use just a standard instrument. because we always have big orchestral sounds in our heads. And there's two of us, right? So trying to emulate that sound as much as humanly possible is something that we usually strive to. And these instruments usually give us that ability to kind of fill as much of that as we can.
I always remember the first time we actually all played together, and I was having like a really rough day. And it was at the studio that I work at, so it was this big studio, and they both came in and they set up, and I was still doing my own thing with the painting and getting it ready, and they were doing sound check. And as they were doing sound check, the sound just boomed the entire space and literally boomed like my spirits. I was so excited to start painting with them because firstly, I don't think they ever get the chance to really play that style of music. And then secondly, like you could tell they were both really enjoying and then I remember sort of kicking myself and just being like, man, I wish someone was here to listen to this. It always deserves an audience to me. Yeah.
Didn't we talk about that the other day?
We did, yeah.
We're just like, I'm gonna roll up and play piano, and you're gonna play my violin, and it's gonna sound terrible.
Yeah, but somebody's got to paint.
Oh yeah, wait. Let's do that.
You don't want me to do that. There's no correlation, at least for me, there's no correlation between like art and music for me. Like I in terms of actually performing the art, I failed art in high school and I can't draw anything. So
I think there's definitely always a push to further everyone's efforts. Whenever we finish one project, it's always like, okay, how are we going to make it better? So there's constant chatter between us about who's going louder, how are we going bigger, how do we get production value up, how do we get more people hearing us and listening to us, and how do we get bigger event spaces. Like, it's always in the back of our minds when something's finished, how we're gonna like make it even better the next time. And then on top of that, yeah, you just surround yourself with good looking people who know what they're doing. And you're pretty good.
See that, you guys?